Hello, everyone, and welcome here to this Broad Street Hockey trade deadline vibe check here. I am Ryan Gilbert in the comfort of my own home, comfort and safety, and making our first driving appearance on the Broad Street Hockey YouTube is Jacob Russell here. Jacob, how's it going?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is legal. How are you doing, Gilbert? I'm good. I'm just merging.
Yeah,
right now.
I'm doing well. I was hoping for some more rumors. Please drive safe. That is first and foremost here. We do not condone.
Yes, I cannot.
Driving, but,
you can see me. I cannot see you.
Yeah,
so
that is perfect. So
I am just on a phone call right now. I would like to tell everybody.
Excellent.
Yeah, I cannot see what you guys are saying. I'm not looking at the screen. But
you're looking good. You're sounding good. That's what matters there.
That's all that really matters at all. Good connection. That's all I care about.
Yeah, perfect there. So, want to do a little 23-hour now to the trade deadline vibe check here. Scott Laughton still the belle of the ball for the Flyers. Igor Zamula's name has been thrown out there by Steve Dangle, so now I blogged that up to get some clicks. Rasmus Ristolainen still a possibility. I mean, who knows? Who knows? Flyers tend to come out of nowhere, especially with Danny Briere at the helm. So, could be some teams coming out of nowhere. Jacob, how are you feeling? What do you think is going to happen? How are you feeling now if nothing happens tomorrow? Because I asked you a week ago. I think it was last Thursday.
Yeah.
And you said you'd be annoyed.
I would. I think I'd still be annoyed. I think it's still sort of. It's heading towards the territory where it seems like something is imminent. The Dangle thing. What? Since we talked about Risto and Laughton, I think at length, as you said last week, what is with the Igor Zamula rumors? That's like I didn't even. What do you trade for Zamula? What?
I mean,
why would you even bother bringing that up? Anyways, but yeah, I would. To go back to your original question, yes, I would still be annoyed. I don't think my stance has changed at all.
Yeah, I think I've definitely gone that. Maybe even like as far as saying and like infuriated if the Flyers don't make a move, especially with the bidding war around Scott Laughton. The only way I'll be okay is if Brock Nelson gets dealt. It sounds like he's not. If Braden Shunt gets dealt, it sounds like he's not. So like there's no centers above Laughton that are going to get dealt. The comparable ones, maybe like Ryan Donato, if he gets traded for a second. And the Flyers don't deal a lot, and maybe then like the first round pick wasn't real, but I think at this point, unless it's all just leaking to try to drive up the price, someone has to give up a first round pick.
Yeah, it seems almost like it's going to be one of like 8 teams at this point, right? There just seems like there's more and more teams entering the fray for Laughton. In particular, I mean the Risto thing that looks more and more like an off-season move. But with the Laughton thing, I'd say it seems like he's pretty highly valued around the league. Maybe more so than we initially thought. Maybe more so than just the Leafs. Maybe a lot of playoff teams would like his services, especially at the cap hit that he's at. Right. It seems like a good risk for some teams, and yeah, I for something in me kind of just is still feeling like this is going to be a first round pick up until the end of the deadline, and eventually he ends up going for a second and a third in the future.
I guess that would be okay, but it would be disappointing.
It is underwhelming, but that to me that seems like what his value is on the open market. Now that bidding war that has developed, it could be, that it takes a first round pick now to pry Laughton out of Philly. I think that definitely makes more sense than it did maybe last week when we talked before.
Yeah, I ultimately do think that makes sense there, and we'll probably get to a situation where, like last year with Sean Walker, Danny Briere will get his first round pick, but he'll have to be like, all right, we'll take back David Kampf as well. Like we'll take back a bad contract from you to get the price we want, because it doesn't matter. Put David Kampf in the AHL, buy him out, bury him, flip him for nothing. It's just the matter of getting that first round pick for him. So yeah, still no real update on Scott Laughton. We could be saying these same things a month ago, 2 months ago. Just wait and see for the deadline here. But the Zamula thing is kind of interesting, because like maybe it's teams that are like, okay, we want Risto, but the Flyers either want too much for him or won't retain. so they look at the Flyers for a cheaper option, and like they're not trading Sanheim for York for anything small. They're not trading Drysdale. Eric Johnson isn't worth much of anything. So like Zamula is the default other defenseman. Like, I guess Sealer maybe, but I think the Flyers love him a bit too much to trade him, especially after last trade deadline. So Zamula seems like the guy that maybe teams are like, all right, what we have to go up for Walton and Zamula, who's a 6'7" defenseman, can play left side, can play right side. He can fill in on that third pair, which is crucial in the playoffs.
Yeah, it's strange to me just because when Chris Tanev comes back, if I'm correct, that means that Phil Myers, old friend Phil Myers, gets bumped out for the Leafs, and Tanev is back on the first pair. Myers is the seventh defenseman, and I don't know what sort of upgrade you're necessarily getting from Myers to Zamula. I saw some. I just perused Twitter quickly for some Leafs fans, opinions on the matter under that Dangle tweet, and there were a couple like, well, he did run the power play for them, and I was like, oh, buddy, that is not what you want. Like, you don't understand how the depths of that hell that you are scraping when saying that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what role he would fill for the Leafs outside of just being a guy on the outskirts as a seventh D man. I don't see how he gets into the top six for the Leafs, and if he does, I don't see how it's an upgrade from someone like Simone Benoit or Phil Myers, like I mentioned before. It just seems it's a very weird rumor to me. Whether or not that is for like the broader league in general, I don't know. We don't know at this moment, but I don't really see a benefit to trading Zamula for what, like a third?
I guess if anything, it opens up a spot for Andre, who the Flyers think has a higher ceiling. I know Thomas has thrown out maybe the Flyers get Timmins back in a deal with the Leafs. I'm seeing here Phil Myers playing top pair with Morgan Riley, according to
Phil Myers. Phil Myers has he's played some big minutes for them. Funnily enough, he's found his way home.
Good for him. Yeah, and so yeah, the Mula thing is just very much just thrown out there. I think there wasn't even like they're interested. Speaking of Thomas here, we have another Toronto boy here joining from some public transport. It looks like he's out on a walk here, a walk and talk. How's it going, Thomas?
Hello.
Hi, how's it going?
Look at this. Beautiful
hi,
Hamilton,
Thomas.
Ontario.
Oh my God!
Is that like a runway there? Looks like you're going on a private plane, private jet.
We don't have private planes here.
Yeah. No, I'm on the edge of a mountain.
Yeah. Thomas, how you feeling
what
about
have you guys
Scott
been talking
Laughton?
about? I haven't tuned in.
Scott Laughton, Eagles and Mula.
Oh,
How you feeling?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good, honestly. Like the rumors and the rumblings are as loud as the wind right now in my ears. It feels good that Brock Nelson might stay on Long Island, according to Chris Johnson and other people. So that kind of just increases the market, I think, for them. And I think the noise is too loud for Lawton, especially that something's going to happen. And then, but yeah, I think I'm feeling generally good about the Flyers deadline, especially with just like how things might shape up for them, like what they could really get and squeeze teams out of. But yeah.
Yeah. While we have Thomas here calling in with some wind affected audio, and Jacob calling in with some fantastic audio. Oh, Thomas dropped there.
Hey,
you can.
I'm glad. It sounds good.
Oh, you sound great there with your. I'm not sure what edition of Apple headphones those are, but yeah, there's some wind there from Thomas. But so yeah, we're also taking calls here on this live show. Let me pull up the overlay with the call-in number. Where did I put that? There it is. It's 417-319-1482. I'm trying this first time, so hopefully it works out. So don't be worried about your audio being bad. You got Thomas here, so it's fine. Feel free to call in there. It's not anything special, so it has to be one at a time. But I mean, we probably won't get any. We'll see what happens. Thomas, how are you going to feel, and how do you think Flyers fans will feel if they don't do anything or just trade like Zamula for a fourth?
I think there will be some like deep breaths we need to be had. I don't think that this fan base is really good for patience, but yeah, like obviously there's an aspect of it of just like instant gratification, and we've heard so much about, especially long, that about some sort of move. So if nothing happens, then it might just be a feeling of like, oh, Briere lost his chance. It's a window missed. It's an opportunity wasted once again after he didn't make like other moves like David Jiricek or Askarov earlier this year or something. It'd be another thing that fans that are generally upset about this team could use and utilize to prove their point further. I'm gonna get on a bus soon, but there's I think it's just a point that people can make, and yeah, like especially with Lawton, it does feel like I kind of have to agree with like an opportunity wasted a little bit. That it's him being moved as a rental or just with like 1 year left isn't as exciting or will garner that much of a return as like right now.
Yeah, that's kind of one thing I forgot to mention in my article yesterday, saying why now is the best time to trade Laughton is because next deadline, who knows what you get? Who knows how he's performing? Who knows if you can get a first? I mean, maybe you can, but maybe it's just a second, and then at that point, maybe they're in a playoff bubble and hold on to him, and then you get nothing for him. So it does seem like with everything being leaked, everyone, the bidding war and whatnot, they have to trade him. You have to think someone is willing to give up a first round pick. And I said to Jacob before, like, if you have to take back a bad contract, you do it and just bury it for the year or two that you have to deal with it.
Yeah, me personally, I've become really fixated on the prospect of like a Cates, Minton, Luchenko sort of bottom three centers for the future. Like, so, I it's tough to pry Minton out of Toronto. There's a reason why they want him. There's a reason why they want to keep him. But at the same time, it would be so good looking at what you would be able to set and forget those three positions probably for quite a while. And those three guys are so interchangeable, so good on both ends of the ice that it just sort of makes sense, right? But for the future, it's gonna be interesting to see if they don't trade Laughton, will they be able to actually get something of consequence for him after this deadline? Will it actually end up being a missed opportunity? I think now might be the time to trade him, and I think Scott himself, a guy who hasn't necessarily had chances to go on deep playoff runs, maybe it's time to explore that for him. It's going to be a while until the Flyers really make another, deep playoff push. You'd have to imagine at least next year or the year after that, until that really starts coming into view. And Laughton may want to explore other avenues. I think this is the time to trade him if you want to. If you have determined that he's not like a Nick Seeler and a guy you want to keep around for the vet presence for the locker room, that it just sort of makes sense now, I think, more than ever.
Yeah, because looking at the offseason, the market's not going to be there for him as much. The Leafs definitely won't be as desperate with, Marner and Tavares are now entering free agency this summer. And, like, you can get a Nick Bukestad projected to get $3.1 million for 3 years. Nick Dowd, $2.5 million for 2. Lars Eller, $2.5 million for 2. Like, teams can sign those guys to fill out their bottom six centers and not give up a first-round pick for Scott Laughton, who, let's be real, is marginally better than those guys. Maybe better in the room, maybe has a better reputation, but on ice production is going to be similar on a contending team.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's fair, and he fits in a lot of different places, right? He can just sort of slot in on the wing, he can slot in as a third line player, as a fourth line player. He's one of those guys that is sort of the opposite of how I viewed a guy like Morgan Frost, where it's hard for him if he's not in the top half of the lineup to really get that sort of same fit on a roster. Because he doesn't necessarily have the utility to play in that bottom six. Laughton has that, and that's why he's so appealing to teams like, maybe the Jets or the Leafs or the Panthers, who are still trying to add one more piece.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely, those contenders can all use him. We have seen a few of those contenders pick up some guys recently. I want to just shout out Alex in the chat here saying Flyers Twitter will be taking up the Pittsburghs. That's if Laughton does not get traded. And Jared saying, LOL, you said it, brothers. But yeah, if Laughton does not get traded, there are going to be columns written about how the rebuild is over or took a step back or something with the deadline passing here. Yeah, I want to look at a few of the trades going on today so far. Thomas, if you have something to say, just on mute or something. I'm just going to assume you're you're just listening there on the bus. You got some
loud ass Hamilton bus sounds.
Yeah,
what
so
was that?
he was making fun of the bus, I think, there. But
I am making fun of the bus.
Yeah, we saw Riley Smith go back from the New York to Vegas for a third-round pick, and Brendan Brisson, who I didn't realize used to be was a first-round pick and seems like a decent, potential middle six, bottom six guy. Seems like a lot for Riley Smith, but also like we talked about with Nyquist, it's like it's familiarity, so they want their guy, and they wouldn't pay that for a similar player that wasn't there before.
Yeah, Riley Smith has history in Vegas, and that team looks really good. They just need little pieces around the edges. Maybe they're hoping that Smith can do some more playoff heroics sometime later on in the season. But yeah, it's just a familiarity thing in the bottom six again. We'll see. It's a guy you want to have back because he reminds you of better times, basically.
Yeah. So Smith goes back there. I mean, that seems like a good match for him to go back there. Obviously, Nico Sturm traded for a fourth-round pick from the Sharks to the Panthers. So Panthers got probably a fourth-line option there. Not much better than that. Brian Dumoulin going from the Ducks to the Devils for a second-round pick, and Herman Traff, who is definitely a real person, is kind of interesting here because I don't know what the Devils are doing. I think you guys said that in the Slack too. Like a second-round pick for a pending UFA when Jack Hughes is out for the year seems not smart, I would say.
Yeah, I've always out of people, even at my actual real life job, that is not this, is also around a lot of hockey people, and I've always been lower on the Devils than I think a lot of people have been. Just as a concept, I think they're talented, but I think they lack a bit of that high end, top to bottom depth. And Dumoulin helps that on the defensive end. But yeah, as you said, Jack Hughes out for the year. That's probably going to make this season a wash anyways. So it's a bit strange to pick up Dumoulin. I like Dumoulin for a playoff team. He's one of those guys who you can pick up from the Ducks who he basically doesn't really have any utility there due to the fact that the Ducks are terrible. Turned it around a little bit, but still bad. But yeah, no, Dumoulin to the Devils is weird, but maybe the Devils think they can sneak in and get Hughes back at some point in the playoffs. That's a stretch and a half, but
very much a stretch there.
So yeah. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thomas, you have anything to chime in here on any of this, or are you just along for the ride?
I'm worried that I'm worried that I'm too loud. But
you're definitely too loud.
I like Dumoulin to the Devils just because, again, he's a depth guy, but I think they still overpaid him. Yeah, it's a strange move, especially for the Devils to probably just give up. I wouldn't have bought at all. I just would have stayed the course. I wouldn't have sold Tatar or anything. I just would have been not buy, not sell, see what happens with Hughes out. But they're stupid, so it's fine. Yeah, that's what I think about that.
Yeah, we didn't mention Andrei Kuzmenko at all, and I mean we mentioned Laughton, Risto, Zamula at the top. Even we got a comment here from FinsUp13. We need to keep Kuzmenko. Why would we trade him? It looks like Zamula, Risto, and Laughton are on the block. Yeah, as more time goes on, and there's been no one at all linked to Kuzmenko, I feel like they do keep him. But it also
I never felt that
we,
was real.
we are receiving a call here. I'm going to go off. You guys continue. I'm going to see if I can manage this.
Okay, I'll continue. Yeah, I never saw a fit for Kuzmenko necessarily. I just don't see why, after being included as a cap dump in a larger trade, why Kuzmenko necessarily would get moved again for more assets. I just never saw the point of that for another team.
Yeah, I think it's just scrambling downtown Hamilton right now.
Yeah, I know. I can tell.
Wait, he's recognize there's the lives. Yeah, I sorry, are you saying why keep Kuzmenko? Or why?
No, why would another team trade for Kuzmenko after he was just included as a throw-in piece?
I mean,
Why I would give up. And I like him. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I think for the 2.75
I think I was higher than most people.
I think half price Kuzmenko, getting a 39 goal scorer potentially, if you put him in your top 6, could be attractive for some teams for a very cheap addition. I'm not sure if a team maybe the Blue Jackets, you send a 4th round pick just to get some extra. You're surrounded by other Russians there. I think a team should be interested probably just because he has such a good history for moving the needle slightly, and he might be especially with the lack of forwards really available. I think it just might make sense because who else on the wing is giving you that potential for not cheap, right?
Yeah. I mean, to me it just doesn't make as much sense from a Flyers perspective either, or a team acquiring him. I just don't. I don't know. You could do it. I just don't think it moves the needle either way for either side. I just don't think it's too much of a. It's not too much of a blockbuster. It's not too much of a noteworthy move if you were to do it. Gilbs, did you get any phone in answers?
Well, now we can't hear you.
Yeah, Gilbs went out to the
audio rerouted.
Gilbs is on the talking to the operator right now. He's doing a private podcast with the T-Mobile associates. But yeah, besides Kuzmenko, though, I don't see any other surprise names getting moved who aren't the ones who've already been brought up. I don't see it. I don't see a Nick Seeler going anywhere.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I don't see any Ryan Poehling moves happening. I thought Hathaway would have been a sneaky addition for a playoff team, but it seems like obviously he's going to be out of commission for a lot of teams.
Yeah, even with his extension, I don't think he was really a possibility.
Yeah.
Jared says could see a Kolosov trade. Yeah, just to get him out. Didn't Danny Briere said something very vague in that Q&A with Jackie Spiegel? I'm just oh yeah, do you recognize this, Jacob, by the way? There you go.
I can't look. I'm driving.
No, you can look.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
What were you by? I probably recognize everything.
I'm at the Pizza at John and Maine King.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I want to apologize to Jared there. He called in twice. I could hear him. He couldn't hear me. We did not do any sort of tests beforehand, so we'll get this cleared up for the trade deadline stream tomorrow.
Yeah, can't call it. But what was I saying? The Hathaway extension is kind of a limited. Like, I could actually like. Would you guys consider, like, before that whole Zamula thing today, like literally hours ago? Did you think about the possibility at all that he could be moved?
Well, no, because he's Russian. I mean that's just a fact, though. Like, if he wasn't Russian, yes, absolutely, he's the perfect guy to move. Like you said, I think you may have included in that article. Like, trade him for a young forward of a similar caliber. Like, yeah, especially a center.
I have the receipts in the BSH Slack of what moves I would do with Boston, Calgary, and Pittsburgh. So watch out. I'll pull them out.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
it makes sense, but also at the same time, I don't like it at all. You know, I don't know what young center you're getting for Igor Zamula, who's worth trading. And if you're getting another winger at this point who's a project, I mean, we probably got enough of those now at this juncture.
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't hear what you guys said first about Kuzmenko, and I was trying to do this call shit. But like, I would deal him definitely for a second, maybe for a third. But like, outside of that, he's seemed to gel here. He seemed to like it. Maybe he becomes friends with Michkov, and that opens up as a Mula trade because you have another countryman there. And yeah, if he wants a 1-year deal, even a 2-year deal at a smaller cap hit might be something I'd be open to, just to give them a middle six guy that can score and isn't just a small checker like Brink and Pelletier.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I really don't see where that can materialize, between today and tomorrow, considering we haven't heard anything about it. But it would be interesting in theory.
We do always hear these guys like just random. Oh, this depth forward scoring winger traded for a 3rd round pick, traded for a 4th round pick, like early afternoon of deadline day. So I think that's something that could just come up out of nowhere, like the Flyers have been known to do. Are there any other trades that have happened that you guys are like, oh, the Flyers should have done that? Or the Flyers, I wonder what the Flyers could have done for that? I mean, Seth Jones is probably the Seth Jones or the Borkstrand one, I guess, would be the most likely thing. But once again, with that one, you have Yanni Gourde going back to where he won a cup. So you have the familiarity there. Besides that, it hasn't been anything where I'm like, oh, I wish Danny was in on that.
What do you think about Tommy Novak?
I don't mind him. I feel like he's a decent. He's not young anymore, though, is he? He's a good middle six center.
Not necessarily young, no. I like. He's one of those guys I just like as a depth piece, but I don't think it's necessarily the right time in the timeline to be going after Tommy Novak. He's just one of those guys that interested me that I saw traded in that Bunting deal, where I don't really necessarily. I'm not a huge Michael Bunting guy, so
I don't know if anyone is besides Kyle Dubas.
Yeah, maybe. Well, he just traded him away.
That's true. Maybe he's over him now.
He's anti-Michael Bunting.
Tommy Novak seems like maybe what Noah Cates can get. He can get to. Like, he entered the league at 24, 43 points at 25, 45 last year, 22 and 52 games this year. So, like, 40-point center, third-line center. Seems like the Flyers already have him. But also, does not hurt to get more center depth, so we don't have to call up Rodrigo Abels or
Rod the Bod
or whoever if Laughton does get traded.
Yeah. No, that's I don't think there's been too many interesting names traded just yet. I mean, obviously the Seth Jones thing, the Flyers aren't anywhere near that. There's nothing you can really say about that unless you were talking about a potential Ristolainen trade and comparing to that, which I think is I relatively, the return would be relatively similar, I would think. I think Seth Jones has more pedigree, but it depends if you're retaining on Ristolainen.
Yeah. Here's a question for that one. Would you do that deal for Sanheim? Or how much would you need for Sanheim?
This is first and Spencer Knight? Was that
first, and instead of Spencer Knight getting like a similar pedigree center, like a position of need for the Flyers?
For Sanheim, honestly, I don't. I think the Flyers are maybe a step further than Chicago in their process. They're in a bit different stages. I don't know if I'd like to trade Sanheim for something like that. It depends who the center would be in that case, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think the Flyers would trade him.
I like Sanheim. I think he's really important to the team. I think he's going to be good for a decently long time now.
Yeah, I mean he's paired well with York.
Yeah.
I ultimately don't know if that's going to be the top pairing. I think those two guys separate could be better. But Thomas, what do you think?
What if? Sorry, I just repeated up because the garbage truck is driving by. What if from Florida it was Anton Lundell? Like I don't think the value is there. Obviously with Knight, I think he has a higher value than Knight, but it was like Anton Lundell in a second or something. Like I don't.
I love me
Lundell's
saying
locked up for a
Anton
long
Lundell.
time. Like
He is good.
he's great, but he's also like a second line center maybe.
Yeah,
Like,
I would say so.
I don't think he's.
I don't think he's got the potential to be a first line center now.
No.
Yeah.
Like if he's a first line center, it's like you're getting like a Rupe Hintz light. Like Rupe Hintz, a poor man's Rupe Hintz as a first line center.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I think that would have been, but also I don't think Florida really wants to trade away Lundell when probably Bennett's leaving, and then he's going to take that second line center spot from him. So for next season, but yeah, I don't know. I think there's nothing really interesting related to the Flyers that have happened yet, because all that's moving are teams that are like all that. The only teams that have actually like bought are teams that are clearly have a clear goal in mind. It's like Tampa, Florida. It's basically becoming somewhat of an arms race. The teams that the Flyers are probably going to be involved with are more the outside border teams, like talking about like not border teams, but in terms of like projectability and probability of going deep in the playoffs. You're talking about Washington's probably lower than Florida and Tampa, so you go a lot in there. Toronto might be on that same level, just maybe a step below Tampa now in Florida. Like it's the teams that are looking for more depth than like suddenly you get Bjorkstrand and Gord, and that's like a luxury on your third line, while Laughton adequately fills a hole, but he doesn't like over exceed his role. You know what I'm saying? You're talking like no team has been involved that is an ideal, logical place for Laughton or Ristolainen to go. Really, right?
No, not
That's
as a contender. I don't think so. Not yet.
Yeah, I guess the closest you could say is the Rangers, but like they've sold, even though they might buy a little bit. And someone said they're on Laughton, but like there's no one that like Nico Sturm. Laughton's way better than him. Like the Panthers weren't ever going to get him, I don't think. It does just seem like the Leafs are waiting out the Blues, seeing if this Parayko injury maybe opens up the door for them trading Shen, and then if Nelson and Shen are off the table, they come crawling back to Danny, and Danny's like, all right, give us Minton in a second now, and they'll do it.
Yeah, my phone's gonna die, so I'll hang up and listen later. All right. See you guys.
Appreciate you joining, Thomas. Get home safe.
Cheers, Thomas.
All right, thanks, Thomas, for joining us. Jacob, I know you're probably almost at work. We don't have to do this too much longer.
Yep, I'm pulling in right now.
Yeah, we can wrap this up here then. Yeah. I do apologize for the call-in issues. That was something last minute. I thought it may be able to work, but we'll work out the kinks. Hopefully for Friday, we're going to be going live definitely after the deadline. If anything happens, we'll probably be going live. So make sure you guys are subscribed to the YouTube channel at Broad Street Hockey. There, trying to get up to 1,000 subscribers, and Thomas will pee his pants if we get to 1,000 subscribers before the end of the season. I think he will. He has that in writing.
It's in a contract somewhere.
Someone might get the Scott Hartnell haircut if we get it by the deadline. I don't think we're going to get there in the next 22 hours here, but you never know.
That would be a lot of people.
Maybe we go viral and everyone wants to see, maybe I don't know who would get the haircut. Maybe Steve, maybe me, maybe Thomas. Like, who knows there? But
I said it can't be me because that would be just like going back to high school haircut.
Yeah, we need to see pictures of that though. You have to provide photo evidence of that. Thanks. Jonas in the chat. Bam subbed. So yeah, if you're following along here,
thank you, Jonas.
Subscribe. If you're listening later, search us up and subscribe there. Plenty of good content coming out the rest of the way. Jacob, any final words, any final predictions here before the deadline?
No, I mean, I think it should be interesting. I could see it being another one of those boring deadlines from a Flyers perspective. I think there's going to be a lot of discussion that doesn't materialize. But it's going to be interesting to see if Laughton does get moved. I think that's the one domino that you're going to have to see if it falls or not at this point. I don't think Risto goes in particular, but yeah, we'll have to see if the Flyers shock us. They do work in silence nowadays more so than they did before. So it'll be interesting to see. We're going to have to wait on it, and I'd imagine something, if it does happen, will happen later tomorrow, and we'll address it from there, and hopefully it'll be an exciting Friday deadline.
Yeah, it does feel like Laughton is the shoe that has to drop here. So we'll see what happens there. See what happens with Risto and Zamula and whoever else. Until next time, thanks for listening.